Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're uncovering how a sticky, naturally occurring fluid literally rescued whales, toppled King Coal, and became the absolute catalyst for global industrialization. When you really dive into the history, the story of petroleum is absolutely wild. Let's get right into it.
Let's start things off with a totally mind-blowing fact. Before cars were a thing, early refiners had absolutely no idea what to do with gasoline. They actually considered it a highly explosive, practically useless byproduct. So what did they do? They literally just dumped it into rivers under the cover of night. Crazy, right? Just think about that the next time you're paying at the pump.
Section 1. Lighting the Industrial World. Now, long before modern drilling rigs dotted the landscape, brilliant minds were already tapping into petroleum. Actually, records show the Chinese were extracting oil and natural gas using bamboo pipes way back in 347 AD. And by the 10th century, Muslim scholars were already describing how to distill early forms of kerosene. So humanity has known about this stuff for a really long time. But it took the massive, compounding energy demands of the Industrial Revolution to truly unlock its potential. Up until the mid-1800s, coal was basically king. It powered the heavy steam engines in those massive early factories. But there was a huge problem. The world desperately needed a better way to light up rapidly growing urban homes and, just as importantly, to lubricate millions of new moving machine parts. Now, whale oil was the go-to choice for a while, but we were hunting sperm whales to the brink of extinction. Enter the new light of petroleum kerosene. It was adaptable, it was fluid, and it literally saved the whales by providing the cheap, reliable illuminate that an industrializing society desperately needed. And that brings us to the real turning point. In 1859, a guy named Edwin Drake successfully drilled deep for oil in Titusville, Pennsylvania. This proved, once and for all, that petroleum could be extracted on a massive commercial scale. That single breakthrough kicked off a frantic oil boom in Pennsylvania. It completely shifted the momentum of the industrial world and threw the pace of modernization into overdrive. Section 2. Breaking the transport bottleneck. Okay, so getting the oil out of the ground was one thing, but early producers hit a massive brick wall: transportation, specifically the 42-gallon wooden barrel bottleneck. Back then, oil was loaded into these standard wooden barrels and hauled away on horse-drawn wagons. The problem? Rural roads were unpaved and just completely choked with mud. It was so agonizingly slow and inefficient that it caused massive backups at the wells, overflowed storage ponds, and led to wild price swings. Transporting a single barrel just a few miles could cost up to $4, which pretty much erased the profit margins of this huge new industrial fuel. To escape those extortionate prices charged by wagon drivers, they were known as teamsters, the industry had to innovate, and fast. First, they tried building wooden pipelines, but the teamsters weren't exactly happy about losing their monopoly. They responded with armed attacks, arson, you name it. But the industry pushed through. They treated logistics as its own major industrial challenge, eventually engineering highly efficient metal pipelines. And for global transport, innovators commissioned the very first successful bulk ocean tankers, like the Zoroaster in 1878, to safely move staggering amounts of oil across the seas. Just take a second to imagine the intense manual labor this required. Workers were out there literally digging trenches and laying metal pipelines by hand. It was a sheer physical struggle just to build the vital infrastructure. But that monumental effort finally allowed oil to flow freely to refineries, completely bypassing those terrible muddy roads and wagons. It set the absolute foundation for true industrial scaling. Section 3. The Internal Combustion Revolution. Right around the time Thomas Edison's incandescent light bulb threatened to make kerosene lamps completely obsolete, the oil industry got a massive lifeline: the internal combustion engine. Look at how fast this moved. In 1879, Carl Benz patents a practical automobile. Then, in 1901, the massive spindle-top gusher in Texas proves we finally have enough oil volume to sustain an entirely new, industrialized transport economy. Fast forward just a bit to 1913, and the very first drive-in gas station opens up in Pittsburgh. The timing of these industrial leaps was just perfectly aligned. This sparked a total paradigm shift in the industrialization process. Remember that useless, river-polluting byproduct we talked about earlier, gasoline? Yeah, it transformed almost overnight into the most valuable fuel on planet Earth. It drove the massive, newly mechanized consumer market of automobiles, permanently cementing oil's role as both the literal and metaphorical engine of the 20th century. Section 4. Fueling the war machine. When the world wars broke out, oil became the ultimate strategic weapon. It radically accelerated the industrialization of the military. Suddenly, naval ships and trains could move significantly faster than coal ever allowed. Oil powered the very first internal combustion tanks, airplanes, and submarine fleets. And it even birthed massive new industrialized wartime sectors. To give you some perspective, the U.S. geared up its synthetic rubber production to the point where factories were churning out a 75-pound bale of synthetic rubber every 9 seconds. Every 9 seconds. Oil literally dictated the scale and speed of modern industrialized warfare. Section 5. Building the Hydrocarbon Society. The renowned historian Daniel Yergin perfectly captures this monumental shift here. He notes that oil didn't just replace coal, it became the fundamental basis for the great post-war suburbanization movement. Think about that for a second. Petroleum dictated the actual physical layout of our modern industrialized world. It became the lifeblood of our daily commutes, it powers global agriculture through synthetic fertilizers, and it's the exact reason transporting food to massive megacities is even possible today. And here's the kicker. It's not just what we burn in our engines. Our dependence on petroleum is honestly staggering when you look at all these hidden, industrially manufactured everyday products. Everything from your morning deodorant and lipstick to aspirin, dentures, diapers, and even life-saving artificial hearts. Every single one of these items is directly derived from petrochemicals. Our modern industrial existence is literally built out of and kept alive by the byproducts of refined oil. Now, sustaining this hydrocarbon society demands infrastructure on an almost incomprehensible scale. We're talking massive, modern pipelines stretching across entire continents. And because oil is the central pillar of the global industrial economy, the sheer necessity of this infrastructure eventually shifted immense geopolitical power. Power moved directly from consuming nations into the hands of producing nations, a shift that culminated in the formation of OPEC in 1960, which, as we know, forever changed global economics. But we are undeniably entering a new era of transition. As the environmental impacts and the stark realities of climate change become impossible to ignore, the unquestioned dominance of the oil age is finally being challenged. The very same fuel that accelerated industrialization to its absolute modern peak is now facing a concerted global effort to reduce our carbon footprint and shift toward renewable energy sources. So after exploring how profoundly petroleum shaped the industrial world, literally touching everything from our daily commutes to our medical devices, I want to leave you with this final provocative question. As we aggressively seek alternative energy, how exactly does a civilization that was entirely constructed by oil learn to live without it? It is a massive, incredibly complex challenge and one that will absolutely define our future. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer and keep exploring.